Hey everyone, and welcome to another 2 hours of scary stories. I hope you all enjoy them. Not too long ago, we tested out a video where we didn't have any mid-roll ads. You seemed to like that one a lot, so I thought we would go ahead and do it again. There were a ton of comments offering up advice. There was one in particular that stuck out to me, and I just wanted to propose it to all of you. The comment basically said, since I have these intros on every single video, why not just place one ad right after the intro and then you have 2 hours of uninterrupted stories. No ads, nothing to wake you up, just narration for 2 hours. Plenty of time to get comfortable. You don't have to skip through any ads. Nothing. I thought it was a great middle ground. That way I'm still earning something off of these videos, and it'll be a far better listening experience for all of you. I think it makes the most sense. Of course, I do want all of your feedback on this. It is your feedback that led me to here. It is your feedback that will influence how we move forward, as it's always been. If you do enjoy this video, please be sure to drop a like rating, subscribing, commenting, sharing it around. All of that is very much appreciated as well. Let's see if we can reach 800 likes on this one. I know that's a pretty high goal, but the last one did hit that, so I think we could do it. Sit back, do whatever it is that you do to relax. Enjoy these 2 hours of uninterrupted scary stories right after the ad break. And as always, I hope you all have a great night. I was broke as shit. Flatlined financially, emotionally, existentially. Whether by poor choices in my youth or plain old shit luck. Life spat me out straight from high school and onto the streets. Drugs followed, rehab, the relapse. I drifted from couches to shelters to squatting in abandoned homes. Steady income? Never heard of it. So when I saw the email, I almost deleted it without reading. I figured it was just another rejection for one of my poorly written job applications until the header caught my attention. Dinner with me for $50,000. I'm not exactly attractive. Even before addiction wrecked the few good features I had, I didn't have much going for me. My eyes had sunk into my skull like they wanted to disappear. My skin had forgotten what hydration felt like. So this email? Ridiculous. I had no looks, no resume, no justification for being chosen. But I'd just left a shelter, and 50 grand was a dream bigger than anything I'd ever held. So I read on. It was from a domain I'd never seen before. Shepard K at SNK compunctionfirm.com. The message read, "Dear recipient, I trust this message finds you well. I invite you to join me for dinner at..." This is not a romantic offer. You will be compensated handsomely for your time, provided you adhere to the following terms. Remain for the full meal until I pay the bill and escort you out. Do not pay for anything yourself. Wear formal attire. If you don't own a suit, one will be provided at the entrance. It will fit. Any breach will void all compensation. To accept, reply. A time and date will be sent. To decline, disregard this message. Did it seem insane? Absolutely. But desperation makes fool of us all. The kind of fool that doesn't ask for explanation. Just a fork and a seat. So I replied, "Hello, Shepard. Thank you for your generous offer. I accept your terms and will be there. May I ask a few questions about this proposition? Again, thank you." I didn't expect a response. Maybe a phishing scam, maybe nothing, but seconds later a reply came. Monday at 6 p.m. at... Questions may be asked at dinner. Thank you for your cooperation. More cryptic BS. That's when I gained the smallest amount of common sense and decided to look into whoever this guy was. This was clearly his business email, so I googled the domain, S&K Compunction Firm. I was expecting some big group of lawyers off the name alone, but nope, No law firm. Just a single office tucked in a strip mall. No products, no services. Just a photo of the branch manager, despite the fact that the office barely looked big enough for two people, and the title implied multiple locations, yet I couldn't even find a second one. What did they do? Solutions? No specifics, just that one word. I thought about backing out, probably should've, but when you've got nothing left, hesitance starts looking like a luxury. I had nothing to lose, so I took the chance. Between drug-filled stupors and getting my butt kicked once or twice, Monday crept up on me like bruises do. Slow, unseen, then sudden. I didn't have anything formal, so I threw on the only white button-up shirt I owned and some gray slacks. Both had stains I couldn't explain, and no iron had graced their surfaces in years. Still, they were the fanciest clothes I had. None of it mattered. The second I hobbled into the restaurant, the greeter, if you could even call them that, handed me a dry clean suit without a word and pointed to the bathrooms. I took the hint. The suit seemed expensive, real Men's Warehouse type stuff. It fit perfectly, just like the email said. Too perfectly, actually. The cuffs landed exactly at my wrist bone. The collar rested like it knew my neck's shape already. I didn't have the time or money to question it. I walked back out. The place had a strange charm. Soft lighting spilled across tablecloths and smooth pools of warmth. Ornate picture frames lined the walls, filled with abstract paintings that felt a bit too familiar. Wood trim hugged every surface. Big, glittery curtains hung heavy like a wedding reception. It smelled like artificial plants and faded fabric. Soft jazz floated through the air and brushed against my ears. As I scanned the room, I realized something unsettling. When I first walked in, there were at least 4 tables of people laughing and enjoying themselves. It had been noisy and lively, but now, silent, empty. Like a bell had rung that only I hadn't heard. Just a few bartenders. The mute greeter. The one bald man in a suit eerily similar to mine. I already knew who he was. His photo was the only thing of note I'd found when looking up the domain. The branch manager. I approached his table and, before I could ask if he was expecting me, he gestured to the chair across from him. He was an older man, maybe 50, with sad, droopy eyes. His nose was so thin and pointy it looked like a shark's fin. He seemed to have no nostrils at all. His jowls fluttered slightly as he spoke in a soft, low tone. "Thank you for coming, young man. It's good to finally see you," he said, extending an arm for a handshake. I tried my best to sound steady and firm, despite my rising anxiety. "Thank you, sir." The conversation that followed was surprisingly pleasant. The food was better than almost anything I had ever had, decadent and strangely nostalgic, as if it had been made just for me. He asked about my childhood, my current working conditions, and my family life. Most of these memories weren't pleasant, but it felt good to have someone simply listen. I reached a point where I started letting my guard down. He never interrupted, never judged, just watched. Then he got serious. He grabbed my wrist just as I lifted my fork. His grip was ice cold but steady, and his tone dropped. "What is something you wish you had never done?" "What?" I was shocked by his sudden seriousness. He didn't respond. He just stared, still and waiting. I swallowed. "I stole from my mom when she was dying. I was supposed to take care of her and protect her, but I spent her money on the stuff she told me to quit." A waitress appeared silently, depositing a small porcelain bowl before me. Inside sat a single seared scallop resting on a streak of bright red pepper collies, its color staining the white plate like the shame I carried. The scallop's tender flesh gave way to a flash of heat, a reminder that some wounds never fully heal. A whisper of lemon zest lifted the flavors. He nodded, no judgment in his eyes, only something quietly accepting, then stood and excused himself to the restroom. As he left, I took a breath and tried to shake off the moment. Then I noticed it. The chandelier above us had one more bulb, just one. The light it cast bent slightly at the edges, stretching the shadows under our plates. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. Back to normal. Mostly. The jazz had slowed by a fraction. Notes now lingered a second longer than they should. He returned looking subtly altered. His right side appeared younger and tighter. The left side remained unchanged. A crease near his mouth had vanished, and his smile felt less weighted. He asked again gently, "What's the kindest thing you've ever done?" I told him about a homeless kid I had let sleep in my car on a freezing night. I didn't know his name and didn't want anything from him. I just locked the doors and stayed up until morning in case someone tried anything. While his gaze lingered, another course arrived. A hollowed apple cradled a warm, butternut squash soup, its sweetness tempered by sage oil. The apple's crisp rim framed the velvety broth, echoing the way I had sheltered that boy from the cold. Each spoonful felt like a soft promise of safety in a world so devoid of it. This time, as he listened, something in his face responded. His left eye seemed brighter, and the left side softened. He looked younger somehow. Maybe the light was playing tricks, or maybe the room had grown darker. He asked another question. "What's the worst lie you've ever told?" I hesitated. I had promised myself I would never recall this memory, yet I felt compelled to tell the old man. When someone close to me overdosed, I could have saved them. I saw them but was frozen in fear, thinking I could be just like them. When the police came, I told them he was already gone when I got there. He nodded again. Still no judgment, just listening. I'm not sure how, but as I spoke, a new course appeared. A translucent, steamed dumpling sat alone, its skin almost too delicate to touch. The moment I pierced it, a smoky chili broth gushed out, scorching my tongue with the sting of my lies. The gentle wrapper dissolved into nothing, leaving only the burn of a secret I thought I'd buried permanently. Then he stood and walked away, slower this time. His chair creaked slightly as he rose, and the floor beneath it curved outward in a way that made no physical sense. As I waited, I saw the wallpaper behind the bar begin to bubble faintly, like heat was pressing against it from inside. The curtains seemed heavier. The picture frames on the wall had begun to tilt, each at a different angle. Not much, but enough to notice. Enough to make you wonder. The waitstaff didn't change plates. The glasses refilled themselves, and I started noticing something impossible. Everyone in the room had his face. Not exactly, but similar. Like a family of clones degraded with each repetition. The bartender blinked with one bulging eye, and the hostess's smile sagged like melting wax. When he came back, the distortion had grown wider. His jaw was uneven, one side shriveled, the other taut as barbed wire. The contrast on his face was more than physical now. It radiated something deeper, like halves of a personality that couldn't agree. He sat, scanning me as if measuring the weights behind my silence. I wasn't sure if he was evaluating my soul or just admiring the way panic settled into the corners of my posture. His voice arrived softly, almost reverent. "What memory do you miss the most?" It took me a moment, not because I didn't know, but because I was afraid to admit how fragile the truth had become. "I used to swim in Lake Michigan every summer." I said slowly. With friends. We'd throw ourselves off docks and scream about sea monsters and cold sandwiches. It was stupid, but I felt safe, like I didn't owe anything to anyone. Shepard's good eye glistened. A tear formed and trailed down the brighter side of his face. It lingered at his chin and disappeared into the folds. The darker side remained unflinching, its socket almost hollow now. I stared at him, unsure whether to thank him or run. He didn't speak. He just stood, his movements slower this time, calculated, weighty. The chair creaked like it hated being left alone. The bathroom break felt longer. The silence thickened, and the music was barely audible. The overhead lights dimmed again, and this time they pulsed faintly. One of the picture frames fell sideways. The bartender wiped the same spot over and over, face devoid of emotion, eye bulging slightly. The wallpaper near the entrance was peeling, tiny tendrils reaching outward like roots. A fly circled the wine glass beside my plate but never landed, looping endlessly. I felt my chest tighten. Shepard returned. This time he didn't sit. He loomed. His face was wrong. The symmetry had given up. One eye bulged fully, twitching in quick spasms. The other was practically sunken. His mouth hung slightly open, but no breath escaped. He said nothing for several seconds, just watched me, then finally, "Would you like dessert?" I stood almost instinctively. "I think I need the bathroom," I said. He nodded slowly. "Take your time." The restroom was too quiet, the mirror too clean. I leaned forward expecting to see my own ruin reflected, but instead behind me in the mirror, Shepard waited. Not in the room, but in the reflection. His body was stretched, taller than before, suit shimmering like the surface of a pond. He smiled, both eyes twitching violently. I didn't scream or move. I just stepped back out, numb. The dining room was nearly gone. The walls had peeled upward toward the ceiling. Tables melted into spiraled masses of dark wood and cloth. The floor rippled like liquid stone. The curtains had vanished entirely, leaving a strange static haze where windows had once been. Shepard stood at the center, calm. "You've done well, young man," he said. "Repentance is never easy. The hardest part is accepting that you are no longer part of the world you knew." My knees threatened to give out. I wanted to argue, to scream, to run, but nothing in my body responded the way it used to. Everything had slowed except him. "What do you mean?" I managed to ask. He smiled gently like a father comforting a child who had just asked the final fated question. "This meal," he said, "is not payment. It's passage." "No," I whispered. "I walked here. I remember the shelter, the email." "You remember the drug," he said, cutting gently across my denial. "And the stall in the diner. You remember how cold the tile was. You remember how long it took for someone to find you." I shook my head as if it might rattle the truth loose, but it didn't help. My legs wouldn't move. "All we offer," he continued, "is a moment, one last conversation, one last taste, one last confession." The last of the room flaked away like ash in the wind. The table in front of us dissolved into nothing. Steam hissed upward from cracks in the floor that hadn't been there seconds before. Shepard extended his hand again. The suit he wore shimmered strangely, colors shifting like moonlight on ocean currents. Patterns swirled across the threads. Faces, maybe, or shadows. I couldn't be sure. "You did well," he said quietly. "You were honest. That's all we ask." I felt tears on my cheek, though I didn't know how they got there. What happens now? Shepard looked over his shoulder. Behind him, the restaurant was finally gone. In its place, a hallway of shifting doors. Some open, some pulsing with warm light. Others dimmed and sealed. Now, he said, you choose. You've seen my books. No, I'm not going to tell you which books, nor who I am, so don't ask. I assure you, though, if you're a big reader, or even a sort of reader, then you've probably read or at least heard of some of my stuff. My stuff in the hypothetical sense of the phrase. As the title says, I was never actually the one who wrote my books. Again, don't ask me who really did. Not because of privacy or theft laws or anything. I just don't know. I used to be a plumber of all things. Not the most glamorous of professions, but it paid pretty well. Seeing how almost nobody wanted to do it. My dad trained me right out of high school, and pretty soon I'd saved enough to move to my own apartment. A few years later, I decided I may as well sell my soul and get locked into a mortgage, because at least then the rent money wouldn't be going to waste. The idea was to get a few roommates and have them pay for my house instead. But I'm a private person. It's not that I liked living alone per se, but I never had many friends growing up. I didn't know who to invite to the other rooms, and the idea of strangers moving in with me. I read. That's what you do when you're 26 and you don't have friends. You read books and pretend you do have friends. And when you finish one book and realize you're still alone, you pick up the next one. It's a bit like alcohol. You have to drink another glass in the morning to recover from the damage of the glass from the night before. Except, nobody ever applauds you for getting drunk as a hobby the way they do for reading. If that all sounds like a terribly depressed way to view life, well, it's probably because I was. However you want to say it. I was in what you might call a drought period, one of those times when you read something exceptional the month before and now you can't find anything that compares to it. I tried a few series, but nothing piqued my interest, and I'd all but given up. Resorted to watching Friends for the 30th time instead. That's when I found the basement. Basement is a strong word. Crawl space is more accurate. I was pulling up the carpeting in one of the guest rooms during some renovations, and there it was. The flat door with a brass handle on the closet floor. Like any new homeowner, I opened it and hopped down. Rot and mildew and something metallic, all bundled into one scent. Maybe a cat had died here. It was 4, possibly 4.5 feet tall. I had to stoop all the way over to shuffle forwards. I was barely 10 steps in when it appeared on the ground. A stack of papers. They weren't in any sort of an envelope, no rubber band holding them together, or even a staple. About 20 sheets were stacked one on top of another, perfectly white as if they'd just come from the printer, even though nobody had been down there for years judging from the age of the carpet. The passage ended a little after that, so I grabbed the papers, climbed out, and closed the trap door. It wasn't until that night, when I'd finished tearing out the carpet and the emptiness of the house was getting to me, that I actually stopped to read the papers. The story on them. I was enthralled. I didn't move until I'd finished them, but each word, each sentence gripped me and dragged me in. It was real. That's what it felt like. The story on the paper was reality, and my life was the fake thing made of ink. If only I could keep reading, I could keep living, and... I turned the last page. The story stopped mid-sentence. I flipped through the pages over and over, hoping somehow I'd missed a page, that there was more. I reread the entire thing. Then again. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning I called in sick. I paced the house. I tried watching TV. I tried reading, but nothing worked. I was obsessed. I had to finish the story, but the ending didn't even exist. After 2 days of this, I'd had enough. I'll bury it, I thought. I'll bury it, and my mind will accept it's over. Instead of digging a hole, though, I went back to the crawl space. I would leave it where I found it, and try to forget the story. When I went back down, a fresh stack of pages awaited me. That's how it started. New pages wouldn't appear until the old ones were read. But that was no problem. I read them with a savage hunger, chapter after chapter. I called in sick to work again, but when my dad tried to come visit, I told him not to, that he'd only get sick. I read for hours and hours, taking trips back down to the crawl space where new pages would await me each time, until finally it was finished. The end. I popped down one more time, just to see if there was some sort of an epilogue, but the crawl space was empty. The story was over. For weeks I searched online for clues about who had written the story. Nothing came up. I reached out to the past owner of the house. "There's a crawl space?" they asked me. We never knew. I sat on the books for weeks and weeks, obsessed but resolved to give it up, to put it past me. Eventually, I reached out to some literary agents. One more sip of alcohol to cure the hangover. From what I hear, it takes months and months of waiting to hear back after you reach out to agents. The ones I reached out to took days. Each of them requested to read the whole book, and each one of them offered me contracts within the weeks. "You're the best writer I've ever signed," said the agent I went with. I didn't correct her. Publishing went much the same. It should have taken months. Within weeks I had signed with a major publishing house. The editing process that should have taken months took days. "I can't imagine changing a word of this," my editor told me. "You're an amazing writer." I said nothing. Most authors face mediocre success at best. The ones you hear about, those are the exceptions. For every career author, there's 100 authors that never make back their advance. That should have been my expectation, but even then I knew. I knew something was different about this book. Not just the way I'd found it, but the things it did to me. To others. It was enthralling in the way a blind kitten crawling towards a cliff is enthralling. Once you glance at it, you can't look away. Sure enough, it was a bestseller. It won awards. I earned back my advance in weeks. They invited me to talk shows and conventions, but I declined them all. "Don't get used to this," I told myself. It was one book. It wasn't even yours. The inflow of money was great. Fantastic, really, but I didn't quit my regular job. It wasn't like I'd be writing another book and eventually everybody would calm down. They'd forget about my book and I'd be forgotten. The friends would stop calling. Things would go back to normal. And then one night when I couldn't sleep, after I'd spent hours staring up at the ceiling of my lonely bedroom, I went back down. Some deep, slumbering part of me had already known they'd be there. The new pages. That was how it had worked the first time, after all. I had to read the pages for new ones to appear. It made sense. I would have to publish the last book for a new one to appear. I read the new chapters. I visited the crawl space 10 more times that night until I'd finished the whole thing. The next day I quit my job, and so began my new life. I timed it purposefully. Every 6 to 8 months I would submit my new manuscript. Every 6 months I would take a trip back down to the cellar. Each book release shot me back up to the top of the bestseller list. Money rolled in steadily, more than I knew what to do with. It wasn't like I was going to buy a new house. No, that much was obvious. I would live where I did until I died because I needed to. For my career, I told myself, I have to stay here for my career. Even then, though, I think I knew. I wasn't staying there to support my lifestyle. It was a nice perk. Being rich certainly had its benefits, but it was about the books. It was always about the books. I reread them constantly. What else was there to do? The hours most writers take to write was free time for me. Might as well read, reread, consume. At first, I would see how long I could go without picking one of my books. 1 day, 2, 3. That was the limit, I discovered. By day 3, my palms would get sweaty and my stomach would start cramping. Eventually, I stopped resisting. Reading was all I did with my time. I quit all other books. I did try to read them, but none of them satisfied me. They were flat, like the 2D version of the 3D stories that Crawlspace gave me. They were the lotus flowers from the Greek myths. Once you try one, regular food could never taste the same. At least it's just me, I told myself, my one small comfort. I could fade away, give in, and that was all right. Nobody else would be harmed. Besides my dad, nobody cared about me. I wasn't hurting anybody. I convinced myself that was the truth. I really believed the books were just affecting me, until my first book signing. I'm not entirely sure what convinced me to do it. Maybe it was my agent or publisher who'd both pestered me to do one for years. Partially, it was due to one of the rare recovery periods where I actively trying to stop reading. Always to little success. But I did one. My very first book signing. The bookstore filled up. Literally. They were turning people away. Hundreds showed up to meet me. The false author of these best-selling books. They were so excited to meet me. I saw the anticipation as I did a reading. I was almost looking forward to the book signing, despite the hours-long line. "Yours are my favorite books," one woman told me. "These are what got me into reading," said another. "They're the only thing I read now." "Glad to hear it," I said, chuckling as I signed. I looked up. The man wasn't smiling. "I'm not," he said. He walked away. I started noticing it then. The jittery look in the eyes. The way people desperately clutched their copies of my books. Not in a loving way. Not like a child clinging to a teddy bear. More like victims of the Titanic hanging from the rails as it tipped. "What else do you read?" I asked a teenager and her father. The teenager shook her head. "Nothing. Why would I?" To another fan holding a battered copy, I asked, "How many times have you read it?" She laughed nervously. I don't know. I can't remember." She burst into tears. "I can't stop. Why can't I stop?" Almost nobody reacted as she tore out of the bookstore sobbing. It was in all of them, that frantic obsession in me, their simultaneous loathing and love for the books. Some of them outright scowled at me, like they hadn't wanted to come, but hadn't been able to resist. It was the very last woman in line who scared me the most. She didn't even look up at me. She stared down at the book in her hands. The very first one I'd ever published. She never responded to my questions. She never put it down. I recognized the cover. It was the first edition of my first book, which meant she'd been one of the earliest people ever to pick me up. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her teeth were falling out like she couldn't spare the time to brush them, and her skin was a sickly yellow. I never did another book signing. It gets worse as time goes on. That's what I've realized. The longer you read them, the more dependent you are on them. I've tried to stop publishing. Of course I have. 12 times. Look at what my books are doing to people. Look at what they'll continue to do. Even if I could stop, though, it wouldn't matter. Once you've tasted the lotus petal, you can never go back. No one I've talked to has been able to quit once they've read something from the crawl space. All those people at the book signing, all my thousands and thousands of readers, it's too late for them, the way it's too late for me. My hair falls off in clumps now. My skin is yellow and my teeth, nearly all of them are gone. Even so, I continue. Year after year climbing down through that trap door, sending off my manuscripts to the publisher. I can't stop. I don't want to anymore. It's easier to just give in. Sip by sip by sip. It's almost a relief to grab the pages the crawl space gives me and pump them out into the world. That's the only way I get more of them. And it's not like I can write my own stories. This entire time I've never written a word myself. Not one. Not even these ones. I don't get it. I swirled my straw around in my iced pecan latte. Not the manliest drink choice, but Amaya had turned me on to them, and now I couldn't go back to whatever I had ordered before. I would never be the same. Yeah, Josh, Amaya chimed in, leaning back in her chair almost precariously, the front legs tilting off the ground. Me neither. It looks like Grindr. I snorted. It does kind of look like Grindr. How would you even know that, Cooper? I mean, I've seen what Grindr looks like. Have you never seen what Grindr looks like? My head whipped between them, searching for understanding in Josh's face and sympathy in Amaya's. I only found laughter. I crossed my arms and sulked. Guys, I know it's weird, Josh finally continued. He pinched his baseball cap by the bill and spun it around so it was backwards, leaning forward and holding out his phone for us to look at. Doing that was almost a nervous tic for him. It had to be 50 times a day that he rotated his hat like that when he was wearing one, just to rotate it back again. Sometimes I joked that he was going to make his hair curly like that. I don't even know who made this. Jackson said they found it on the dark web or something. Your cousin, Jackson? You're not really falling for that, are you? Amaya smirked at him, leaning on her elbows and chewing on her straw. He's definitely messing with you. He just glared at her and kept going. Some people think it's like promotion for a movie or something. Some people think the people on here are dead. Dead? Like ghosts or something? He shrugged loosely, his face blank. Don't know. There's just a lot of theories. They could also just be bots or something. So what's the point of using this? I chimed in, slurping loudly as the last hints of liquid in my cup. I got a couple dirty looks from some old ladies at the table next to us, and I smiled apologetically. You were just making it sound sketchy. Josh grinned, coming alive. He rotated his hat again and leaned in closer, like he was going to tell us a juicy secret. Amaya and I glanced at each other. People are finding love, apparently, he whisper-yelled. Like, on the app? With the ghosts/bots? He shook his head. No, not exactly. I think the point of the app is that it figures out your type or something, and then you just find someone exactly like that. They're drawn to you or something. So now this is some tarot card universe soulmate BS. Amaya always joked like this, but I could tell she was getting legitimately a little frustrated with him. I didn't blame her. Her emotions had been all over the place lately, since she and Sean broke up. I felt guilty for feeling a little relieved they finally ended it, considering it meant she had more time to hang out with us, because I knew she was having a horrible time with it. They had been together for 2 years. Things like that were a big deal. I, on the other hand, hadn't had a girlfriend in years. I hadn't even been on a date in longer than I wanted to admit, and even if I could get a date, I didn't think I'd know what to do with the opportunity. I thought college would be a constant party where I was meeting girls left and right, but so far I had been sorely mistaken. I couldn't lie. What Josh was saying sounded appealing in theory. If it was real that time, which it wasn't. Listen, Josh said, offering her a crooked smile. I know it sounds insane. It definitely is insane. I haven't even gotten to the weirdest part yet. What's the weirdest part then, Josh? She brushed some dark brown curls away from her eyes, scowling at her own iced latte. Spit it out. Check this out. He held out his phone again, and Amaya and I both leaned in to look. It was the same screen he'd showed us before. The one that looked a little bit like Grindr, with a black background, and the only thing on the page were a list of open chats. He tapped on a little question mark in the top right corner, and that was when the terms and conditions popped up. Terms and conditions. 1. If someone messages you that you would like to speak with, you must reply within 10 minutes of receiving the message. 2. If you do not wish to speak with someone, you must repeat this phrase word for word. Thank you for your interest, but I am not open at this time. I wish you good luck with finding what you want. 3. If you wish to stop speaking to someone, repeat the phrase above. 4. If someone continues messaging you after you have sent the phrase above, get to high ground, lock all doors and windows, and contact customer support immediately. Delete the app. Do not re-download the app. 5. Do not message anyone between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. 6. Always say goodnight before you go to sleep. 7. Always say good morning as soon as you wake up. 8. Always be polite. 9. Do not send more than one message at a time. 10. Do not offer them anything to eat. 11. Do not agree to meet up with anyone on the app. Do not tell them where you are, even if they say that they already know. Do not invite them into your home. 12. If they are near your home, get to high ground, lock all doors and windows, and contact customer support immediately. Delete the app. Do not re-download the app. 13. Do not let them trick you. They will try. 14. We are not responsible for any negative consequences of using the app. Amaya and I just stared at the page for a long time, both of our eyes skimming over the words once, twice, 3 times. Finally, Amaya leaned back, rubbing at her face with the palms of her hands. This has to be a joke. Josh shrugged, setting his phone down. It's crazy, I know. Do you agree to all of that? I asked him. I felt a little uneasy, my stomach churning. The pecan latte wasn't sitting well anymore. Have you been using this? He shrugged again, now looking a little bit embarrassed. Listen, I know it sounds insane, but it's just for fun. I just want to see if it's real. Jackson met this girl like a week after using the app for the first time, and I met her. And she's really normal and nice. I find that hard to believe. Maya's face was red, and she kept nervously tucking her hair behind her ears. Look, if you're messing with me, like, if you're both in on this is a really crappy prank to pull on me right now. No. Both Josh and I cried out at the same time, getting a couple more weird looks. No, Amaya, it's not a prank. Josh finished. I promise. It's just something weird I found, and I wanted to tell you guys about it. Whatever, she huffed, pushing to her feet and slinging her bag over her shoulder. Just whatever. I don't feel good. I'll talk to you guys later. Amaya... I trailed off as she slammed her half-empty coffee cup into the trash, and briskly strode toward the door. Josh and I shared a look. Dude, I swear I wasn't trying to mess with her. He said after a while, searching my face to gauge my belief in him. I nodded, wiping my sweaty palms off on my jeans. I know, it's okay, she just isn't doing well right now. I hesitated for a long moment, chewing on my bottom lip. Before I spoke again, Jackson really met someone? I downloaded the app that night. I wasn't proud of it, but my curiosity became stronger than my uneasiness, and, as embarrassing as it was to admit, I was getting desperate. I just wanted someone. I wanted to meet someone nice and pretty that I could go to places with, and I wasn't having luck anywhere else. I considered it a win-win. If this app was just some BS prank, then we could get a good laugh out of it. And if it wasn't, that meant it was real. Josh had sent the link to our group chat with Amaya, and she immediately responded by reacting to the message with a thumbs down. That meant that, even if she was still a little peeved, at the very least, she wasn't upset anymore. It was a good sign. I pressed on the link and then agreed to download, crossing my fingers and praying for no horrible virus. The app really was incredibly bare bones. Nothing but a message screen, which was empty so far in my case. There wasn't anything else to look at, other than the terms and conditions, which I read again. No one to swipe on, no bios to read, nothing. I was brushing my teeth when I got my first message. My phone buzzed and I nearly choked on my toothpaste when I read the notification. Noelle. Hello, handsome. Smiley face. For some reason, the smiley emoticon unnerved me. I checked the time. 11:30 p.m., so I was fine on that rule. I pressed on the message and her profile popped up. There was no bio, just a name and a picture to look at. I studied it closely, my eyebrows cinching together. The picture was of a girl looking definitely somewhere close to my age. She had shoulder-length curly dark hair and dark skin, and she was posing in a yellow field wearing a flowery dress. It looked normal to me at first, but the closer I looked, the more off it felt. Her smile looked stiff, almost like it was painted on, and something about her eyes wasn't quite right. Her pupils looked strange, but I couldn't put my finger on exactly how. Something about that picture filled me with a sense of dread that I couldn't fully place either. I panicked, and I checked the terms and conditions again before composing my message, before the 10 minutes could pass, just in case. Cooper. Thank you for your interest, but I am not open at this time. I wish you luck in finding what you want. I waited. 3 little typing bubbles popped up, and then they disappeared. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I sighed in relief and shut my phone off. I woke up to 2 more messages from other women. One was named Alyssa, and one was named Jody. My heart began to race. They had messaged during the night, so it had been 10 minutes before I replied, right? The words scrolled across the backs of my eyes like subtitles. You must reply within 10 minutes of receiving the message. Had I broken that rule? But then again, I wasn't supposed to message back at night, so surely it didn't count. I typed my responses, not bothering to look too closely at their profiles yet, not wanting to psych myself out. Alyssa. Hi. Cooper. Hi, good morning. Jody. Hello, how are you today? Cooper. Hello, good morning. I'm doing well. How are you? I tried to match their energy. I made sure to be polite, and I also made sure to say good morning. I couldn't get my heart rate to slow down while I got ready to work, and I couldn't get over the dread I had felt when I thought I might have broken the rule. I knew it probably wasn't real, but what if it was? What would happen to me if I didn't follow the terms and conditions? At work, I got in trouble more than once for checking my phone between waiting tables. I couldn't help it. Even if it was a stupid joke, I didn't want to find out. I only got one message from someone new, someone named Sunny, and I caught it after 8 minutes had already passed since it was sent. I was anxious and restless all day, all the way until it was nearly midnight when I could finally relax a little. The other girls had messaged me a couple of times throughout the day, and I had replied politely, asking them questions about things they liked to do and places they liked to go. Everything really seemed fairly average, besides the very slight hint of stiffness in the way they talked, and the strange qualities about all of their profile pictures. Maybe they really were just well-trained bots. The thought made me feel a little better. They probably weren't even real. The only thing out of the ordinary was one message from Alyssa. Alyssa, would you want to take me out to dinner some night this week? Get something to eat? Of course, in normal circumstances, this wouldn't have been a strange thing to say at all, but I remembered at the last second, do not offer them anything to eat. I told her I was extra busy that week, and I just wanted to get to know her first. She had typed for a long time before responding with, okay. Before it could get to midnight, I sent my goodnights, and let out a long, shaky breath. I called Josh. Hey man, how's it going? He sounded out of breath. He must have been on his nightly run. I had tried telling him it was crazy to go on runs in the middle of the night, and so had Amaya, but he didn't listen. He was a white, straight, mostly muscular man. He had nothing to be scared of. He was invincible. This app is stressful, dude. I lay back in my bed, closing my eyes. It's taking a lot out of me. I heard Josh laugh on the other end, slightly choppy and still breathless. Don't take it too seriously. Like I was saying, it could definitely just be some movie promotion or something. Also, you get used to it. I have. Yeah. I trailed off. Have you talked to Amaya? A little. Why? I'm just worried about her. She's been so out of it lately. Yeah. We should do something for her, man. Like, plan something. I couldn't help but smile. The three of us had been inseparable since freshman orientation. When we had been put in a group, I had thought it wouldn't last, that it would just be a case of freshman friend group. But it had. I felt lucky to have found both of them in such a big school in such a big area. Yeah, we should. Let's hang out tomorrow. Sure thing. I went to bed that night feeling a little bit better, and a little less anxious. I woke up to tons of messages. A couple of new ones, but mostly pages of ones from the girls I had already spoken to. These are a bunch of messages from Alyssa. Cooper, don't go to bed. Talk to me, Cooper. I miss you. Can I come over? I'm moving soon. Could you help me move? You could make me dinner. Cooper, wake up. I'm all alone, and I'm cold. It's so cold. I shivered. I didn't even bother reading through the other messages, just responded with a good morning and apologized for not responding the night before. I wasn't sure this app was for me. The next few days went by without much of a hitch. The girls on the app were creepy, but they seemed harmless, and I was careful to follow all of the rules. I kept telling myself that even if these girls freaked me out, they weren't even the ones I would end up with. If this app worked, I would meet someone who was perfect for me very, very soon, and then I could delete it and forget about it forever. I would give it another week or so, then I was going to give up. That was until Josh came into my job on a Wednesday. I saw him waiting outside the break room, his face pointed down, wringing his hands anxiously. The first thing I noticed was that he had no hat on. The second thing was that he was crying. What's wrong? I asked him, frowning and looking him over. Is everything okay, dude? He shook his head, finally looking up and meeting my eyes. I saw horror in them, and some other emotion that I hadn't seen from him maybe ever. Amaya is missing. Cooper, she's gone. One thought struck me all at once. The first stupid thought I had. Did she download it too? Everything after that felt like a huge gray blur. My manager gave me the day off work, and I went with Josh, following him to the police station. I sat in their gray room. I answered their questions. I tried not to cry when they told me that her roommates had reported her missing after she hadn't seen her for over 24 hours. I tried not to panic when they told me her roommates also found the window broken that morning, and some blood staining the carpet. But there was no body down on the ground, no other traces of anything. I felt so guilty. I should have texted her more. I should have been calling and checking in on her. I had just been so distracted by work and by this stupid app. The only thing keeping us from ruling it a suicide is the lack of a body, a female cop told me. Clearly trying to be gentle, she placed a hand on my arm. Her roommate tells us she was going through a breakup. I felt myself filled with painful, searing rage. Amaya wouldn't do that. I looked the cop in the eyes, trying to make the eye contact burn. I promise. I could tell she didn't believe me. I stayed over at Josh's place. We both shuffled around like zombies, basically communicating only through either grunts of acknowledgement or shaky, quiet conversations about any updates. There were none to talk about. I completely forgot about the app. I forgot about it until about a week after she disappeared. My phone had been buzzing nonstop the entire week, but most of the time I had it entirely shut off. Some of my messages had been from my family, Amaya's family, and our classmates and friends, and some had been from the stupid app, but I couldn't bring myself to reply to many of them at all. But then I got a notification that caught my eye. Amaya. Hi, Cooper. It took me longer than I would like to admit to realize what I was looking at. At first I thought it was a text message, and my heart soared up into my throat. Then I realized it was the app. When I opened it up, I was bombarded with messages, both from new people and old ones. The old fear I'd felt about the app began to resurface, bubbling up like bile. Alyssa. Cooper, I'm coming over. I can come over now. I know where you are. Can I come over? Answer me, Cooper. I'm going to come over. Jody. Meet me. Please meet me. Please meet me. Now? Now? Sunny. Cold. I ignored all of them, despite the horrible, sick feeling in my gut. I opened the one from Amaya. I looked at her profile picture. It was her. It was a picture of her I had never seen before. It was dark outside and taken with flash. Her hair was down, falling around her face in the way that she couldn't stand. Her chin tilted a little to the side. She was smiling in the way that first girl was. Wrong. Stiff and strange and wrong. That wasn't her smile. And those weren't her eyes. They were far too dull, and very slightly pointing in different directions. Cooper. Amaya, is that really you? Are you okay? The 3 bubbles popped up, then disappeared, then popped up again. I stood up, beginning to pace. Should I call Josh? Should I call the police? Was this some sort of sick joke? Finally, my phone buzzed. Amaya. I am near your home. I started to cry. I couldn't help it. I wanted to throw my phone. I wanted to break it. Where are you? What happened to you? Amaya. 10 feet. I stared at the message. I felt like my vision was going out. 10 feet from where? Amaya. It's cold here. I swallowed hard. It felt like swallowing rocks. Then I sent. Thank you for your interest, but I am not open at this time. I wish you luck in finding what you want. Amaya. 6 feet. Cold and dark. I knew what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to lock the doors and the windows, get to high ground and call customer support. But I couldn't. All I could do was stare at my phone, at her messages, frozen like a deer in headlights. And the headlights were coming so fast. I couldn't see or breathe or think. She was typing again. As my phone buzzed, my blood ran completely cold. It was 1:56 a.m. No one was there. No one but me and whatever it was. I wasn't even sure if I could stop shaking enough to call the police, and I definitely couldn't hide. Not then. And I had broken nearly all of the rules. Amaya, let me in, Cooper. I have to show you where it took me. I finally managed to hide. I'm hiding now in my attic. I can hear it down there, dragging itself from room to room. My phone is going to die and none of my calls will go through. But I had to write this down. I had to tell someone. Josh, if you read this, I hope you're okay. I hope you followed the rules. I don't know where Amaya is, but that's not Amaya. And if you see me again, I'm not sure it'll be me either. I'm sorry. It's typing again. I've broken the last rule. I didn't delete the app. Wish me luck. Trigger warning. Suicidal ideation. I was in 3rd grade, sitting in the cafeteria when I died for the first time. Deathly allergic to peanuts, surrounded by 9-year-olds, left barely supervised with a room full of lunch trays and chaos. You know how it goes. I don't remember eating it. I don't even remember what it tasted like. Just the sudden, awful stillness. I couldn't breathe. I hit the floor, people were screaming, and then nothing. It went silent in the room. My eyes were locked on the tiled ceiling, white, sterile, humming with flickering fluorescence. I couldn't look away, couldn't move, couldn't even blink. It felt like everyone else had disappeared. I lay there for what felt like hours, unable to make a sound other than low grunts and wheezes. I was unable to move a single part of my body, no matter how hard I tried. Even my fingers and toes were locked into place. I remember wishing to die. I wished to drift off to heaven and be with my old dog again. To move, to speak, to be free. It's a terrible thing, how easily a child can come to terms with death. That's when he spoke. You are already dead. I felt warm breath on my left ear. Someone was lying next to me. I couldn't see them, but I could feel them, close enough for my skin to prickle, my hair to stand on end. Do you recognize my voice? I did. It was mine. I still couldn't move. My body spasmed in tiny bursts, every nerve screaming. I think I peed myself. I tried to scream, to cry, to do anything. There was a choked, childish sound, like someone trying hard to stay in character. All right, he said, stifling laughter. I'll cut to the chase. This is it. This is all there is. He paused as if savoring it. Maybe not here, in this lunchroom forever, but really this is it. He leaned in closer. I could feel his smile, even if I couldn't see it. You always want to speak, but no one will ever hear you. No one will ever see you. Your own personal hell, I guess. Dread spread through every part of my body. However, he continued after a few long moments of silence, I have a proposition for you. I didn't even know what proposition meant, but I had no choice but to continue listening. I can keep you here, not in this moment, but in this life. You'll grow up, have birthdays, play with your friends, pretend this never happened. There was a long silence. I felt dizzy. On one condition, he finally spoke. When the time comes, I will come back, and you will have to give me an answer to my question. Another silence stretched thin and eternal. Why was everything moving so slowly? I can't be dead. I feel mostly conscious. Why couldn't I speak? Why couldn't I move? Suddenly there was another voice. One from further away, maybe from the corner of the room. It was familiar, but it was older, more mature. It was low and quiet, but I heard it. Say no. Then came my voice again, calm, cold. You will have 3 seconds to speak. Say yes and you will wake up. Say no and you may stay dead. Yes, I shouted the second I could feel my throat clear. Sound came rushing back like a crashing wave. Chatter, trays clattering, footsteps echoing off tile. I sat up with a gasp, sobbing, clawing at the air like I needed to prove I was real. I needed to feel something, anything. All around me kids stared, forks paused halfway to mouths, eyes wide. No one moved. What happened? I asked anybody who would answer me. A girl in my class blinked. Dude, you tell us. We were just eating and you fell backwards in your chair. Your eyes were closed for like 5 seconds. Then you shot back up all scared. You should probably go to the nurse. You hit your head pretty hard. No mention of peanuts. No mention of death. No mention of the hours and hours it felt like I was glued to the floor. I must have dreamt it all. I made my way to the nurse's office. She called my mom to come pick me up and take me to the ER to check for a concussion. And a concussion I did indeed have. I never mentioned my run-in with my imaginary doppelganger. No one would have believed me if I had. That is, until today. It's been 13 years now, and I've started to see him. For context, the past 13 years of my life have been hellish to say the least. I don't remember much from my childhood, only my parents fighting, divorce, and poverty. The week I turned 18, I moved out of my mother's house and into my own flat. I dropped out of high school when I was 16 and worked 2 crappy part-time service jobs. I never spent a dime on anything other than gas and the occasional McDonald's meal. I saved up enough for a year's rent on my apartment. I was so convinced that getting away would cure me. I would blossom in the real world. I would thrive on my own. I would create my own family. I would be happy. Every so-called real job I applied for turned me down. Every friendship or relationship cracked and fell apart before it even started. It all should have been a sign. I should have remembered what happened to me when I was 9. I should have carried that memory like a warning. But I didn't. About a year ago, I finally fell in love. I remember thinking, the only time I truly feel happy is when I'm with her. And it was true. When she came over, the apartment felt warmer. I felt warmer. There was this quiet hum in my chest that I hadn't felt in years, like I was a person again. Then one night, she showed up in tears, eyes puffy, shoulders tense. I felt that warmth drain from my body like blood from a wound. "What's wrong?" I asked. "You cheater," she screamed, shoving her phone into my face. On the screen was a video of me kissing another girl in a packed bar. I grabbed the phone with shaking hands. I've never even been to this bar. I've never seen that girl in my life. I love you," I pleaded, desperate. She didn't blink. "Are you really going to stand there and tell me that isn't you?" She snapped, jabbing a finger at the video playing on her screen. There I was, same face, same hair, same clothes, same stupid little scar on my chin. It was me. But I had no memory of this. None. No, I wouldn't let myself spiral. I refused to gaslight myself. I may have been a heavy drinker, but not a blackout cheater. This wasn't me. It couldn't be. "That's not me," I said softly. She stared at me like she was looking at a stranger. "Fuck you." That was the last thing she ever said to me. She left, slammed the door so hard the frame rattled. She never came back for her stuff. Not the spare hoodie in my closet, not her pajamas in the hamper, not even her toothbrush, still drying quietly by the sink like it didn't know she was gone. I thought that was rock bottom, but it was only the beginning. After a few weeks of failing to pick myself up and get back to my life, I finally just got up and drove to my mom's. I didn't speak to her very often, to no fault of her own. I just didn't ever feel like talking to anyone. I felt like a burden on this world. My mom was happy to see me. She hugged me longer than usual and insisted I stay for a few nights. She made dinner every evening. We watched old movies, played cards like we used to, and for a brief moment it felt like something close to peace. We had a beautiful, quiet little weekend together. The night before I planned to head back to my apartment, she turned to me on the couch and smiled. "I'm really glad we started doing this every month," she said. "It's brought me so much peace." I blinked. That didn't make sense. This was the first time I'd visited her in over a year. Not because we were estranged, it was just hard. Emotionally, financially. And I'd never brought anyone with me. Not once. My first instinct was worry. Maybe she was getting older. Maybe this was early dementia creeping in. "What do you mean, Mom? I haven't been here in a long time." I tried to keep my voice gentle, but I think we should start doing this every month. She gave me a strange look, half confusion, half concern. "What are you talking about?" she said slowly. "You were here just a few weeks ago, with that blonde girl. You invited her to dinner. You even showed me the ring you said you were going to propose with." She watched me closely now. There was no sarcasm in her voice, no trace of forgetfulness or confusion in her eyes. Just steady, maternal concern. "Are you feeling okay?" she asked. And I didn't know what to say. "Oh, yeah, my bad," I said. I quickly got my stuff together and left. These coincidences have now been happening for 2 years. A Facebook account under my name filled with photos I've never taken. Pictures of me smiling with strangers I don't recognize. At restaurants I've never been to. In cities I've never visited. Captions written in my voice, but using words I'd never use. Inside jokes with people I've never met. Birthday posts from people I don't know. Calling me things I've never been called. And it's not just online. People at gas stations and grocery stores greet me like we've been friends for years. "Hey, good to see you again. How was your trip? You and that girl still together?" They smile like they know me, but I've never seen their faces before in my life. When the time comes, I will come back, and you will have to give me an answer to my question. The sentence rang over and over again in my mind. It felt like a dream, like words I had never heard. Why was this sentence consuming my every thought? Why do they torment me? Why do they hurt? These words scrambled my mind for months. Months where I barely left my apartment, barely spoke to a single soul. Just me, lying in bed begging for death with a dry mouth and an empty stomach. I stopped eating, stopped drinking. When I did go outside, I wouldn't look before crossing the road, hoping deep down that something would end it for me. But I never died. Every time I caved, I ran from the oncoming headlights. I took a sip of water when my vision blurred. I forced down food when my chest started to tighten. It was like I was trapped in a body that refused to quit, a corpse pretending to live. I was dragging a dead soul through each day, and I couldn't stop myself. That's when I came to the decision I'd have to just get it out of the way. I went on a short walk around my neighborhood that night. I was going to do it. The night I was going to end it all once and for all. I touched the trees and breathed in the cold night air. Felt rain on my skin. I walked back to my apartment in a daze. Every step felt wrong. like the air itself was pushing back against me. Something deep inside me was screaming, "Do not open your door." So I didn't. I stood there frozen in the hallway, key trembling in my hand, and then the door opened on its own. But not by chance. Someone was already inside. There I was standing in the doorway. Same face, same clothes, same expression I thought I was wearing. It was me staring out at me. From inside my apartment while I stood helplessly outside. Soft jazz music played from inside. It smelled like steak and red wine, like money, like luxury. Everything I had never had. The other me looked directly into my eyes with a smile spread across his face. I waited for him to speak as he waited for me to. I finally caved. "You," was all I got out before he cut me off suddenly. "I told you I'd come back for you, buddy," he said through a grin. "Are you ready to answer my question?" I was speechless. What was I supposed to say? How was I supposed to process this? I had just come to terms with death. Why must I come to terms with anything else? I stood there stunned, every part of me locking up. My throat tightened. Words died in my mouth. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. The jazz music faded out, swallowed by the silence like it had never existed. Only this time in the stillness I could see him, clear as day. "Let me repeat myself," he said. "Are you ready to answer my question?" I nodded my head to the best of my ability. I didn't want to. It just felt like I had to. Like there was no getting out of this. A slow smile crept across his face. He leaned in so close our noses almost touched. I could feel his breath against my lips. Was it worth it? The only words I could croak out were weak, fractured. At least, I lived. He paused like he was genuinely considering it. Then suddenly he burst into laughter. Loud, wild, unhinged. It went on for far too long. Long enough to make the moment feel absurd, almost awkward. When he finally stopped, he stared into me with eyes that didn't feel like mine anymore. "I lived," he said, voice flat now. "You survived." Then he winked, a cruel, almost affectionate gesture, and without hesitation he wrapped his hands around my throat. I didn't fight it. I didn't scream. I just let go. Let the breath leave my lungs. Let the world fade out. The life drained from my body, soaking silently into the carpet below. When my eyes opened again, I was back in the cafeteria. Same linoleum floor. Same buzzing lights. Curled up on the floor, I watched my 9-year-old body convulsing on the tile. I tried to scream, tried to move, but all I could manage was a whisper. "Say no." It's all I ever managed to say. And still, without fail, the boy on the floor always says yes. Always. I've gone through this a few times now. Sometimes I think I've made it further. Sometimes I think maybe this is the time I break the cycle, but it always catches up to me. Right now I'm writing this from inside my mom's house. It's warm, safe, smells like garlic bread and laundry detergent. I know what she's about to say. She says it every time, word for word. I'm really glad we started doing this every month. It's brought me so much peace. They say if you want to talk to the dead, you better be ready to listen. I never believed in any of that crap. Ghosts, spirits, signs from beyond. Just stories people made up to help them sleep at night. My sister Mia was one of those believers. She was obsessed with life after death. She even asked to be buried with a walkie-talkie, just in case. She died 2 years ago in a car crash. No warning, no goodbyes. One moment she was on the phone with me, complaining that she thought someone was following her. The next, just silence. They found her body 20 minutes later. I haven't been the same since. For a while I stopped answering calls completely. Just hearing the ringtone made me nauseous. But tonight, something made me pick up. Blocked flashed on my screen at 2:13 a.m. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. At first all I heard was static, faint like an old radio caught between two stations. Then a voice broke through. "Alex?" My chest tightened. It was Mia. Her voice was shaky. "Alex, listen to me. You need to get out of there. Don't trust the people in the house." I sat up so fast I almost dropped the phone. "What the hell are you talking about, Mia? How are you even—" "They're not real." Her voice grew rougher, strained. "They're not who you think they are. I didn't want to call, but I had to warn you. You're in danger." "There's no one here," I said. "I live alone." The call ended. I didn't sleep. I spent the next hour pacing around my apartment, checking every window, every lock. I opened every drawer in the wardrobe. I even looked under the bed like a 5-year-old after watching a scary movie. Nothing. No one was there. Eventually I chalked it all up to a sick prank. Or maybe a breakdown. Wouldn't be the first time my mind messed with me. Grief is a hell of a drug. Around 3:45 a.m. I went to the kitchen to pour myself a drink. Then I froze. There were 2 glasses in the sink. I'd only used one. Both were wet. I stared at them for a full minute before backing out of the kitchen. That's when I heard a sound behind me. The creak of a floorboard in the hallway. I spun around. No one was there. But the guest room door was open. I never opened that door. Since Mia died, her things have stayed in there. Her clothes, her books, the stuffed cat she'd had since she was 6. I always keep the room shut, locked. Now it was slightly open. I should have left right then, grabbed my keys and gotten the hell out, but I didn't. I stepped inside. The air was freezing. The curtains were swaying gently, though the window was shut, and on the bed sat her stuffed cat, sitting upright facing the door. It was supposed to be in a box. I knew it was in a box. Then my phone rang again. Blocked. I answered. This time her voice was barely a whisper. Urgent. Terrified. "They're watching you. Don't let them know you're scared." "Who's watching me?" I whispered. Silence. Then 3 knocks on my front door. Slow. Heavy. And then Mia said, "They're already inside." I dropped the phone and ran. Locked myself in the bathroom. I was gasping for air, trying to calm my breathing. Trying to be rational, but then I heard the front door creak open. No footsteps, just presence. Like the air itself had thickened. I pressed my ear to the bathroom door. Nothing. Then something brushed against the other side. A whisper so soft I wasn't sure it was real. "Alex." My name in Mia's voice, but something was wrong. Too quiet. Drawn out. Then I remembered what she'd said on the phone. Don't trust the people in your house. But I live alone. That's when I looked up and saw something in the bathroom mirror. A reflection standing behind me. I spun around. Nothing there. I looked back at the mirror, still there. A tall shape, standing perfectly still behind me in the reflection. No face, no eyes, just a presence. And then it leaned closer, its breath against the back of my neck, and whispered, in a flawless imitation of Mia's voice, "I never died, Alex. I just came home." I don't remember unlocking the door. I don't remember leaving the room. All I know is I ended up in my car half-dressed, barefoot, shaking so hard I nearly snapped the key trying to start the engine. I didn't go back until morning, in broad daylight. Neighbors walking their dogs, kids riding bikes. Everything felt safe. I went back inside. Everything looked normal except for one thing. My phone, still on the bathroom floor. It was open to my call history. Last call, Mia. No blocked, just her name. Like she was still in my contacts, but I deleted her 2 years ago. I tapped the name. Her contact profile opened. The number was still saved. 911-666-0000. I didn't call it. I smashed the phone instead. I moved out. I'm staying in a hotel now. Bought a new phone. New number. Clean slate. But last night the landline rang. I didn't even know the room had a phone. I picked up. Static, then her voice. "Alex?" It was her again. "You still don't get it," she said. "It's not the house." Then she started to cry. "I tried to warn you. I tried." "What do you mean?" I whispered. She sobbed harder, then choked out. "You brought it with you." And the line went dead. I'm not posting for sympathy. I'm posting it as a warning. If someone you love has died and they call you, don't answer. Even if they're crying, even if it sounds like they need you, because once you answer, they know how to find you. I met Andrew through a Facebook post. I needed a roommate fast, and he messaged me 5 minutes after I posted in the local housing group. No profile picture, no mutual friends. But he said all the right things. Said he had a stable remote job, no pets, quiet, clean, respectful. I FaceTimed him once. He seemed normal. A little awkward maybe, but I didn't care. I needed rent. He moved in on Friday. By Saturday night, I wanted him out. The first red flag was the way he unpacked. He brought 4 boxes. That's it. No bed, no decorations, not even a backpack. The boxes were taped tight and he carried them one at a time, always holding them away from his body, like they might bite. I offered to help. He didn't answer, just smiled, then took the last box into his room and shut the door. I didn't see him the rest of the day. Around midnight, I heard him whispering in there. Couldn't make out the words. It sounded like a prayer or maybe a list. He didn't stop until 3 a.m. The next morning I went to make coffee. The kitchen was spotless. My cereal box was in the fridge. My coffee beans had been alphabetized, and there was a note on the counter in blocky, perfect handwriting. "I replaced your sponge. The old one had too many eyes." I stood there staring at it for a full minute. Then I opened the cupboard. New sponge, bright yellow. And on the floor beneath the sink, the old one, soaked, covered in black mold I swear wasn't there the day before. The middle was ripped open, like it had teeth. That night I locked my bedroom door. Around 2:11 a.m. I heard footsteps outside it. Slow, barefoot, careful, then a knock. Not loud, not aggressive. Just 2 soft taps. I didn't move. Another knock. 3 this time. Slightly faster. "Andrew?" I asked. No reply. I checked the peephole. No one there. When I opened the door, the hallway was empty, but another note was taped to the wall. Don't answer until the third knock. She gets impatient. I didn't sleep after that. I confronted him the next day. He was sitting in the living room facing the blank TV screen. When I asked what the notes were about, he blinked slowly and said, "You heard her, didn't you?" Heard who? "She doesn't like being seen too soon. It ruins her." Then he turned back to the blank TV, smiling. I backed into my room and locked the door. That night I heard him whispering again. Not to himself this time. I could hear the difference. He was answering someone, listening, nodding between each line. I pressed my ear to the wall. His voice came through clearer. "She wants to know your name," he said. "She wants to wear it." I stopped sleeping in the apartment after that. I stayed at a friend's for a night. No calls, no messages from Andrew, but I got a voicemail, no number, just unknown. 30 seconds of breathing, then whispering, then right before it ended, my own voice saying, "Let me back in." I hadn't said that. I came home the next day planning to kick him out, tell him to pack up his 4 boxes and leave. But the boxes were gone. All that was left in his room was a circle of salt around the bed, symbols drawn in the carpet, charcoal, I think, or blood, and one last note. "Don't break the circle. She likes you. She might not stop at your name." I called the police. They found the room empty. No Andrew, no salt, no symbols. Just an empty room with bare walls and cold air. They asked if I'd been drinking. That night the knocking came again. 2:14 a.m. 3 soft knocks. I didn't move. Then I heard a voice right outside the door. High-pitched, childlike, trying too hard to sound friendly. "I have your name." It scratched at the wood. "I want to give it back." I didn't answer. At 3 a.m. on the dot, it stopped. The next morning the hallway was covered in fingerprints, tiny like a child's, burned into the paint. There was another note slipped under my door. "She's inside now. Don't let her out. She wears new faces. You won't recognize them until they smile." I haven't seen Andrew since. I don't think I ever really met him, but I hear the knocking every night. Always the same time, and always one knock closer. I'm always so tired after going home. The fluorescent scream of the office lights still echoes behind my eyes, even here in the blessed dimness of the stairwell. I climb 3 flights, each step feeling like I'm dragging an anvil chained to my ankle. My key finds the lock on apartment 3B. My lock. The deadbolt thunks open. I shoulder the door in, smelling the faint, comforting ghost of last night's cheap instant noodles, and the dusty warmth trapped inside. I don't even make it to the bedroom. The sagging, familiar embrace of my old couch in the living room calls out. I sink into it, the springs groaning their familiar complaint beneath my weight. The fabric smells faintly of dust and me as sleep drags me under. A few hours later, I jolt awake in terror as a hand grabs my shoulder and shakes me violently. "Hey, hey!" someone shouts. I jerk awake, gasping, disoriented. Silver moonlight cuts the room into sharp shapes and deep, pooling shadows. A man leans over me, his face gaunt with sweat in the gloom. His eyes are wide, wild marbles reflecting the weak light. "Get up! What the hell are you doing in my apartment?" His voice is a harsh rasp, cutting straight through whatever dream I was trapped in. Panic surges through me. I lurch upright, heart pounding. "You what?" I blink hard, trying to steady my vision. No, no, this is my apartment. This is 3B. I live here. The man takes a step back, just enough to half merge with the shadows by the doorway. Are you out of your damn mind? I live in 3B. What are you even doing here? I don't know who you are, I say, trying to sound firm, authoritative, anything but panicked. But you need to leave before I call the police. Oh, I need to leave? That's rich. You broke into my place and you're threatening me? I run a hand through my hair, eyes flicking to the hallway. Could I shove him out and lock the door? Could I grab my phone? Where is my phone? And call someone? I take a cautious step toward him, hands half raised. Look, I don't know what this is. Maybe you got the wrong floor or something. Or maybe you're confused, but this is my apartment, all right? You don't live here. He stares at me. Then with sharp, jerking movements, he points towards the kitchenette. Oh yeah? Then tell me that's your owl mug. I follow his finger. A chipped blue owl mug sits on the coffee table like a trap. I blink. I don't know. That's not mine. Damn right it's not, he snaps. That's my mug. And where's my sailboat painting? I had it right here. He jabs a finger toward the wall above the TV. Are you a thief? I turn. My faded Swiss Alps poster is gone. In its place, a garish print of a sailboat on water so blue it looks fake. Wait, I had a poster there. Mountains, Swiss Alps. I swear it was there. The man just stares at me, chest rising and falling fast. I hold up my hands like I'm warding off a wild animal. Okay, maybe I screwed up. My voice wavers, half swallowed by the silence. Maybe I'm wrong. I must have come in the wrong door. I didn't mean to. Shit, I'm so sorry. I take a step back, knees weak. I'll go, alright? I'll just get my stuff and go. But something stops me. I glance back at the coffee table, at the blue owl mug. It's not just unfamiliar. It's wrong. The eyes aren't painted right. They're uneven. One stares forward, the other's cocked sideways, like it's watching the hallway behind me. The man hasn't moved. His expression has changed, less angry now, more uncertain. His eyes flick from the wall to the table to me. I don't remember this table being glass, he says quietly. I look down. The table's wood. It's always been wood. What are you talking about? I ask, but my voice is too soft to sound confrontational. No, it was glass, he mutters. Round, had a chip on the edge from when I dropped the takeout. This one's wood, square. And that lamp? He turns slowly. That's not my lamp. Something creaks in the bedroom. Neither of us move. I think, he says, breath fogging lightly in the suddenly cold air. I think this isn't your apartment. Or mine. The frantic anger is gone, replaced by a mirror of my own icy fear. Keys, he rasps, digging into his pocket with trembling fingers. He pulls out a key ring. We need to get out of here. We'll figure out what the hell's going on outside. My own keys are cold, heavy lumps in my hand. We don't speak again. The silence is a suffocating presence, thick with the smell of decay and the unnerving feeling of being watched by the very shadows that clings to the walls. The hallway to the door seems longer than it should be. I take a step and the carpet squelches faintly beneath my foot. I glance down. The floor looks the same. Beige, ugly, a little stained. But now I don't trust it. Behind us the bedroom door creaks again, only this time it doesn't stop. It opens slowly with the hush of breath sliding between teeth. He doesn't turn, neither do I. Don't look back, he whispers. His voice shakes. Just walk. We move, inching forward. Every object in the living room seems shifted. The couch leans ever so slightly toward the wall. Cushions caved in like something heavy just rose from them. The bookshelf is missing a shelf. My hand tightens around the key ring. The keys rattle too loudly, like they're trying to call attention to us, like they want something else to hear. We're almost there, I murmur, not sure who I'm trying to reassure, him or myself. The front door is 10 feet away. 8. A soft knock echoes from inside the bedroom. The man beside me flinches. I don't dare look. The temperature drops. My breath fogs the air, hangs there, then drifts backward against the laws of physics. I choke on it. This place, this thing, it's copying us. Badly. The front door looms closer now, but the handle seems off, longer than I remember. He reaches the door first, his hand trembling violently as he tries to jam his key into the deadbolt. It scrapes uselessly against the plate. It won't fit. Panic edges back into his voice. It should just unlock from inside, I hiss, my hand closing over the cold knob. I twist. It turns freely. Thank God. With a surge of desperate hope, I yank the door open. We stumble out together into the hallway, gasping lungfuls of stagnant, unmoving air. It tastes thick with dust, and that same underlying damp decay. The hallway light fixture is shattered, glass shards glittering dully on the floor below. Weak, gray, pre-drawn light filters from the grimy window at the far end, revealing a scene that stops us dead. The hallway is a ruin. Wallpaper hangs in long, moldering strips, revealing crumbling plaster underneath. The carpet is threadbare, stained with dark, unidentifiable patches, pulled up in places to show warped floorboards. Doors to other apartments hang askew on broken hinges, revealing glimpses of darkness within. Cobwebs thick as gauze drape the corners and ceiling. The air is frigid, smelling overwhelmingly of damp rot, mildew, and neglect. Utter, absolute desolation. This, the man beside me whispers, his voice cracking. This building, it's condemned. Look. He points a shaking finger towards a large, official notice nailed crookedly to the wall opposite my door. Our door, apartment 3B. The notice is faded, water-stained, and the bold red letters are unmistakable. Condemned. Structurally unsound. Entry prohibited. My blood turns to ice. We both slowly turn to look back at the door we just emerged from, apartment 3B. The wood is warped, the paint blistered and peeling. A thick layer of grime coats the surface, thick as old moss. The number 3B is barely visible beneath it, the brass digits green with corrosion. The keyhole looks rusted shut. It looks like it hadn't been used in years. The man raises his hand, slowly, like shifting the keys costs him something. I look down at mine, both identical, both for 3B, both seemingly useless against the decayed reality before us, yet they worked moments ago. He meets my eyes. Our keys hang limp in our hands. The only sound is the frantic hammering of our hearts and the silence, and then the shadows behind the door shift. At first I almost miss it. Just a flicker of movement in the dark, a smudge of black deeper than the shadows. But then it pushes forward, slow and deliberate. It isn't a person, not quite. The shape doesn't hold together right. Limbs bend where they shouldn't, joints jutting at broken angles. Where a face should be, there's only a hollowed-out suggestion of one, like a mask left too close to a flame. And the worst part? The hallway isn't big enough for it. The ceiling should scrape its skull. The walls should press against its shoulders, but it keeps coming anyway, folding itself into the space like it's bending the apartment around it. The shape tilts its head. My ribs clamp tight, breath trapped like a live thing in my throat. The man beside me makes a sound, not quite a whimper, maybe a prayer. A wet crack splits the silence. The door frame splinters. Just a hairline fracture, but it sounds like a gunshot in the still air. We run, stairs blur underfoot. We don't stop until concrete turns to asphalt, until the sky bleeds dawn. Our eyes meet, a silent scream passing between us. My stomach drops as reality rearranges itself in my mind. This isn't right. The street signs are unfamiliar. The buildings wear strange colors. And that terrible, clawing realization. I don't live in an apartment. I own a house, a blue colonial. A mailbox with mine and Olivia's names painted on the side. A garage where my daughter's bike leans against the wall. Cold sweat trickles down my back. How did we get inside that place? Who let us in? But the most chilling question lingers between us, unspoken. What in God's name did we just escape from? "4:22 a.m. I'm on the back patio and I haven't moved in what feels like hours. It won't let me leave and it won't go away. Every second that I stand here typing and staring at this thing is agony. It keeps its face pressed against the glass so its large features stretch into this horrible expression. It's inside the house, only a few feet away behind the sliding glass door. I think it came from the woods. I can see past it, past the hallway and the living room. The front door is wide open. Such an idiot. I never lock it back home, but here in the middle of the forest, I should have known there are worse things than thieves and raccoons. It's tall, thin, and crooked. Its skin is leathered and splotched. There's patchy hair that withers from its scalp in long black strings. Its hands are gripping the glass, shaking. It's shaking now, and it still hasn't looked away from me. And I can say the same. I can't move. My family's still inside, sleeping, but for some reason I can't move. There's a feeling that if I look away from its bulging eyes for too long, if I lose focus, it'll get me. I'm writing this in case this thing doesn't leave when the sun comes up. I don't know how I know, but I'm certain that when morning comes, this thing will leave me and my family alone. But if it doesn't, then God have mercy on us. 4:46 a.m. It's cold. I'm losing feeling in my toes. The snow I'm standing in has melted into my shoes. I didn't think I'd be outside for this long. Just a quick cigarette and enjoy the northern stars. That's when I saw it. I had just made out the Big Dipper, and in the corner of my eye with this gray line near the top of the sliding glass door, I traced it down and it was the thing's finger. It was looking at me with its hands in the air like someone surprising a friend at a birthday party. I don't know how long it had been there already. I jumped to my feet, and when I did, it smashed its face into the glass hard enough to crack it near the top. I froze, and it did too. It's huge. My body's telling me that I'm in danger, and the best thing I can do is stay as perfectly still as possible. Just don't move. I remember glancing at the clock before stepping out for the smoke. It was 2:55 a.m. I don't know how much longer I can last. The crack in the glass keeps growing. 5:18 a.m. It moved. I couldn't bear it anymore. My entire left foot went numb 10 minutes ago. I tried to lift it and give it a shake to bring the blood back, but I lost my balance. I stumbled back a few steps, and when I looked back up, it was gone. gone from the sliding door. It too had retreated a few steps back into the house, back towards the open front door, towards the stairs leading to my sleeping family. It raised one of its fingers towards the ceiling. It must have been 6 inches long. The other hand brought another finger to its thin lips. Shh. I understood. I returned to my original spot, and it pushed itself into the glass once again, smearing its face. I can hear the glass cracking. 5:51 a.m. Can't be much longer now. Sunrise is late here, I know that, but surely not later than 6. We aren't that far north. Can't be much longer. Can't be much longer. 6:42 a.m. It's taking ages just to type the time. My fingers don't move well, getting hard to keep my eyes open. Where is the dawn? It's still as dark as it was at midnight. It's still watching me. 8:30 a.m. My family should be up by now. Back home we always make sure we're moving bright and early. The wind sounds like voices. It hurts, biting into the back of my legs. Is it horrible that I'm comforted by the fact that I won't feel it when my whole body goes numb? I don't think the sun will ever rise. I think this thing knows that too, because it keeps breaking into these violent shaking fits. Laughing. It's laughing at me. I'm laughing too. I can't stop laughing. I don't know what time it is. I just jolted awake. I was asleep on my feet. On my cold black feet. The sliding glass door looks like a kaleidoscope. All the pretty cracks crisscrossing and splintering. Hope it's not getting too cold in there. I told them where the extra blankets are, but I still want them to get a good sleep. We have a big day of hiking ahead of us. It's smiling at me. It wasn't before, but now I can see layered rows of pearled white shark teeth, as white as the snow. I can see them well because it's still as dark as it was at midnight. But it can't be much longer now. We aren't that far north. Surely it can't be much longer now. The house was a steal. That should have been the first red flag. A 3-bedroom craftsman with a wraparound porch for less than the cost of my cramped 2-bedroom apartment. It was in a quiet, secluded division called Maple Creek, where all the lawns were impossibly green and the neighbors waved with all 5 fingers. The HOA president, a woman named Carol with a smile as bright and hard as a porcelain doll's, met me on my first day. She handed me a welcome basket with a bottle of cheap Chardonnay and a single laminated sheet of paper. "We're so glad to have you, Mark," she said, her eyes crinkling in a way that didn't seem genuine. "We're very relaxed here at Maple Creek. We don't have rules about lawn heights or fence colors. We only have one." She tapped a perfectly manicured nail on the laminated sheet. On it, in a large, friendly font, were the words, "Rule number 1. If you see a pet that appears lost or in distress, do not approach it. Do not feed it. Do not let it into your home. Go inside, lock your doors, and ignore it until it is gone." I laughed, thinking it was a joke. "What, are the raccoons organized crime around here?" Carol smiled and wavered. "It's not a suggestion, Mark. It's the only thing we require of you. It is for the safety and harmony of the community." Her tone was light, but her eyes were dead serious. It was the first time I felt a chill in the warm afternoon air. For the first month it was perfect. Quiet, peaceful. I almost forgot about the bizarre rule. I'd see people walking their dogs on leashes, cats sunning themselves on porches. They were clearly owned, clearly where they were supposed to be. The rule seemed like a weird quirk from a bygone era. Then came the storm last night. It was a real gully washer, with thunder that shook the windows and rain that came down in sheets. It was around midnight when I heard it, a sound that cut through the noise of the storm, a pathetic, high-pitched whine. I peered through my living room window. Huddled under the eave of my porch, shivering and soaked, was a golden retriever. It was beautiful, with big, sad eyes and a leather collar, but no tags. Every time the thunder cracked, it would press itself against my door and cry. My heart broke. The laminated card was sitting on my counter, and Carol's words echoed in my head. Go inside, lock your doors, and ignore it. But how could I? It was just a dog, a scared, lost animal. What was the worst that could happen? I'd be breaking some stupid, arbitrary rule from a power-tripping HOA president. So I did it. I opened the door. The dog practically fell inside, shaking a puddle onto my hardwood floor. It looked up at me with such gratitude, nudging its wet head into my hand. I got it a towel and a bowl of water, and it immediately settled down on my rug, letting out a contented sigh. I felt a wave of relief. See? Just a dog. I fell asleep on the couch watching TV. I was woken up a few hours later by a sound that wasn't the storm. Knock, knock, knock. A slow, deliberate knock on my front door. The rain had stopped. The dog on the floor lifted its head, let out a low growl, and then strangely trotted to the door, its tail giving a single, lazy wag. I looked through the peephole. Standing on my porch was a man. He was tall, impossibly tall, dressed in a neat, old-fashioned suit, like a door-to-door salesman from the 1950s. He was smiling, a wide, friendly smile that showed too many teeth, all of them perfectly straight and white. I opened the door a crack, my hand still on the chain. Can I help you? Good evening, the man said, his voice smooth and pleasant. I do apologize for the late hour. I believe you found my dog. He gestured with his head toward the retriever, who was now sitting patiently at his feet, looking up at him. Oh, yeah, he was out in the storm, I said, my relief making me feel foolish for ever being scared. Glad you found him. The tall man's smile widened, stretching his face in a way that felt unnatural. He has a habit of getting out. He's a bit of a rascal. He leaned forward, his eyes, dark and unblinking, locking onto mine, but he's very good at his job. My blood ran cold. His job? The man chuckled, a dry, rustling sound. He reached down and patted the dog's head. Of course, he said, his gaze never leaving mine. His job is to find the kindest person in the neighborhood. He straightened up, his towering frame seeming to block out all the light from the porch. Thank you so much for your hospitality, the man said, his smile finally reaching his eyes, which now glinted with a terrifying, hungry light. He likes you very much. He decided he wants you to meet the rest of the family. My mind screamed at me to slam the door. Slam it, lock it, run. But my body wouldn't obey. I was a statue, my hand frozen on the door. The man's smile never faltered as he gave the door a gentle push. The brass security chain didn't snap or break. It stretched, elongating like taffy with a soft metallic groan before falling away, limp and useless. There now, he said pleasantly. That's better. He didn't enter. He simply took a step back and gestured with an open palm toward the street. It wasn't a command, it was an invitation, and for reasons I can't explain, I found myself stepping out onto the porch. The golden retriever trotted ahead of us, its tail held high. The air was different out here. The storm had washed everything clean, but the world felt muted, like I was looking at it through a pane of smoked glass. The streetlights cast long, distorted shadows that seemed to writhe and twist at the edges of my vision. As we walked, I noticed other things. A sleek black cat emerged from beneath a hedge, its eyes glowing with a faint phosphorescence. It fell into step beside the retriever. A few houses down, a parrot was perched on a mailbox. It didn't squawk or speak. It just swiveled its head, tracking our progress in perfect silence. They were all moving with us, in honor guard of silent, watchful animals. I looked at the houses we passed. Through their big picture windows, I could see my neighbors. They were frozen in place like mannequins in elaborate dioramas. One family was sitting around a dinner table, forks raised halfway to their mouths. In another house, a man was stopped mid-stride, one foot hovering over the floor. They were all facing our direction, their faces blank, their eyes wide and vacant. "Don't mind them," the tall man said, noticing my gaze. "They're very good at following the rules." We were heading toward the end of the cul-de-sac to the oldest house on the block, a large colonial that had been dark and seemingly empty since I'd moved in. As we got closer, I could feel a low vibration through the soles of my shoes, a deep hum that seemed to emanate from the house itself. The golden retriever led the procession up the walkway and sat patiently before the heavy oak door. The other animals formed a silent semicircle behind us, their eyes all fixed on me. The tall man walked to the door. It swung open before he touched it, revealing nothing but a deep, impenetrable darkness inside. The low hum grew louder, resonating in my bones. It sounded like a purr, a gigantic, hungry purr. The man turned to me, his smile as wide and terrifying as ever. He gestured into the blackness. "After you," he said. "They've been so looking forward to this."